Get your angles. It's all about the angles.
It's true.
And I'm like,
Okay, so bring that microphone closer
Yes.
if you don't mind.
Can I bring it up a little bit or no?
Yeah, you can adjust it however you want.
How do I bring it up? Is it this one?
Yeah, just loosen it.
Left and loosen?
Yep. There you go.
Oh, Jesus.
There you go.
There, check one,
Yeah.
two, check one, two, and then.
Just tuck right and then tighten it.
oh, you are like,
I'm so sorry.
this
That's
is where
okay.
we'll have to get a phone.
It's okay. Here, I got it for you.
I always get paranoid of breaking things.
leave back for me.
Ooh,
Just get
yum.
comfortable.
Isn't it nice?
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Check one, two.
Yum. Really
The guy
nice.
next door
Good?
owns a
Yeah.
wine
Okay.
storage facility,
you
and
so
that's
much.
Yeah,
his
of
wine
course.
that he made.
Really? I'll have to
Yeah.
get the name from you. This is good.
Let's start the intro. We're gonna talk about you ladies.
Okay.
Okay? Here we go in 3, 2.
Hi, everybody. This is Patti Negri, and welcome to The Witching Hour, where every week I bring you a little bit of magic into your life with fabulous guests from all sorts of magical places. I can't wait to tell you about today's. And a little bit of magic, a little bit of spell working, a little bit of empowerment, maybe a little bit of thought process. So listen in every week. And again, just things to empower your life day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, with a little bit of magic. I am a psychic and medium and good witch. I have known that I was different since I was a little kid, though I thought everybody was. I was able to see spirits on the other side. I was able to communicate with spirits. I knew that picking rosemary in the garden and putting some in my mom's wallet would give her more money. So it's just in the blood. And I think we all have magical things in our blood, and it just gets taught out of us. So I'm just kind of knocking people on the head a little bit to maybe remind them a little bit how powerful they are. And speaking of a powerful, powerful guest, I have one of my bestiest, best friends in the whole world with me, sitting right here next to me, Miss Shauna Grace. She too, she's a medium, she's an empath, she's also a medical intuitive. We have been fellow members of the American Federation of Certified Psychics and Mediums for many years now. Even though that's kind of a quiet little organization right now, it's still a beautiful, ethical, well-tested, in integrity nonprofit for the legitimacy of psychics, mediums, and those in the metaphysical and healing fields. I trusted you, didn't I, Shauna?
You did.
Okay, so should we go there now, Mr. Q? I'm looking beautifully at my beautiful producer Q. He just has to point at me once in a while so I know what to do. Okay, so let me introduce you to my dear friend, the wonderful Shauna Grace.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you.
Oh,
today. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to support you.
I know, thank you. And to support you. We're friends, we're neighbors, we're working compadres. It's really good. So why don't you tell a little bit about your background, how you got started?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was always one of those kids that was psychic. You always hear those stories of those little children seeing spirits and so forth. Well, that was me. However, you can imagine being 5 and not even fully developed, brain-wise anyway, to really fully comprehend and understand what I was experiencing, what I was seeing. In addition to being able to see spirits, be it kind of loved ones around friends to other adults, the other side of this was I also felt emotions. I felt even intentions that I didn't always fully understand, both good and also not so good. In truth, it was quite overwhelming, and my way of coping was to really try to shut down, which I think a lot of natural empaths and people who are energetically sensitive tend to do. It's easier to think there's something horrifically wrong with you than actually taking the time to embrace that part of you that's different, especially when you're growing up. It's not an easy time for anyone, I feel like. And in truth, I basically shut down for a long time, staying in that kind of self-sabotage space until my father passed away when I was 19, and I was very close to him. And ironically, he was a doctor, which comes into play a little bit later and when I came out of the spiritual closet, but I digress. And at that point, I realized, in truth, again, it wasn't, the way I was living my life was not working. It was my whole lowest of lows, and kind of had my own personal near-death experience that I think really was my major wake-up call. And at that point, I finally looked at a friend in college and said, hey, do you want a palm reading? I know how to read palms, which not a lot of people knew about. I ironically learned how to read palms when I was 8 from a daycare provider named Jeannie, which I always find funny. And it started from there, you know, and one thing led to another. I started doing readings for friends, then college professors, and the next thing I knew I was doing, you know, getting hired to do, you know, events and girls' nights, and then eventually I even was asked to teach a workshop at Microsoft on the topic of intuition in business. And so what was so beautiful is the more I allowed myself to explore and reconnect to myself and learn to let go of what was not mine and start to really discern my energy from others and understand what it was I was experiencing and the gift I had and how much that could truly be of service to others. It's like the universe just put these pebble stones in front of me and literally guided my path.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that how it goes? When we're fighting something, or we're trying to be something we're not, or trying to do something, we're trying to force it, it's such a difficult role. And as soon as we just allow and step into it, and that's interesting about kids. I want to talk a lot about empathy, empaths, being empathic, because we talked about that before we walked in here. But again, both of us had it when we were kids, as most people do. I was really lucky because it wasn't taught out of me, and it was kind of encouraged. Though I wasn't where a lot of people get it from traditional religions. Oh, that must be bad. That must be the devil. That must be a demon. That must be Satan. That must be something. I didn't have that because I was raised in a very literally atheist. It was more the other way, like nothing spiritual is real, nothing religious is real. But I'm like, but it is. But again, I was always encouraged and not. What do you think parents could do? Like, again, if you were a parent now, or if you were your parent when you were a kid, how would you be different, or how would you be able to? Because again, this show, I really want people to just come home with real information that can take them into their lives. And I know a lot of people who have kids listen to this show and watch this show. And a lot of people who watch this show themselves have a gift, or they're not even watching this show. That means their kids probably have a gift. So what is any tips you have for them? You know, seeing their kids, maybe they think they're a little special, or they see weird things in the corner of their eye, or what?
Absolutely. You know, I think that's such a great topic and so important. And I will say, you know, I do have an amazing mother who's also extraordinary in her own intuitive connection. And that being said, though, to answer your question, if I was a parent now, and I work a lot with children, psychic children, and both with the child as well as with the parent, because I think that relationship is so key. Number one is don't consciously, or to the best of your ability, unconsciously disregard what your child is saying. You know, when they call you in at to their room in the middle of the night and they say they saw a boogeyman, or they saw something and there's something in their closet and they're scared, they're not necessarily making it up. Most of the time they're not, especially when they're really, really little. Like maybe they never heard of the boogeyman, or maybe that's a word they know, but they don't know how to describe exactly what it is that they saw or are feeling. The senses, I feel like, for empaths or people who are and I, have ESP abilities, and especially children, they're so in tune to their senses, not only the 5, but also the 6, and I think probably even more, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or whatever, that they use them in a different way than adults or people who are coming from more of that logical perspective. So even if they say, I saw a boogeyman, even if they didn't physically see it visually with their eyes, they may have recognize it through what they were feeling sensationally in their system. The way I often describe it when I'm teaching psychic development and intuition development for, both empaths or people just, wanting to explore that part of themselves, I often help them when they're trying to find words with what they're experiencing. I say, use your senses in a different way. For example, you might feel the color blue. You may not see the color blue necessarily if that's how your intuitive gateways work, but that doesn't take away from, you're still feeling the color.
The blueness.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
It's still blue.
Even though when you think logically, like, what? That's a color, you would see that, with your eyes. So you get my point, and I think that's something that's, really important to recognize. And also, another quick thing, aside from the disregard, or try not to do that, right? That conversation is, I would ask your children to try to describe it. The gift of them in having those kind of conversations is it not only gives them practice in really learning how to communicate the details regarding their feelings and senses, but the byproduct of that as just a developing human being is as they grow older, they're going to have a stronger connection in general to feelings, emotions, and the ability to communicate with both adults and other children. So you're also giving them great skills just to be well-rounded adults.
Yeah, communication skills for one,
Exactly.
and observation skills. That like two of the most important things we have in life is to be able to communicate and to actually observe without going through world like little zombies, which so much of the world does, and which modern society does to us. So you're getting your kid thinking and dancing and going between that left logical brain and that right intuitive brain. And yes, the guy in the closet, the boogeyman in the closet is real.
Yeah.
I had one, and closets. And now that I'm a grown up and I'm long beyond boogeymen, some of the biggest place I find portals and spirits are in closets and under
yes.
the bed. So they were right. It's whether they didn't see it on a movie, it's true. I think because both places are dark, both places don't get a lot of natural light. They don't get a bunch of human interaction. You reach into your closet and get something out, or you stuff things under your bed. So that's like a ripe breeding ground for energy and spirits. So it makes sense. And now, just yesterday, actually, I was doing a clearing out in Highland, California. Two beautiful women, sisters, house full of kids, her husband, and house full of kids, and both very gifted themselves, very witchy women themselves. And one of their 4-year-old assisted us the whole way, and I gave her jobs like ringing the bell out with things. And her intent and her focus throughout most of it was honestly. And her belief and her empowerment was better than half the adults I do.
Oh, yeah.
She's 4. You still have that sense of wonder, that sense of anything is possible. And that's exactly what you need when you to dance through the veil, to dance on that right side of the brain sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely. And to add to that too is if you do have a child seeing things, and especially if they're scared, the best gift you can give them is empowerment. One of the things that I often do with my clients, or with any children that I come across, be it personally or professionally, who are dealing with this type of thing, is teach them tools and ways of literally owning their own power, and age appropriately, sure, and you can do this in whether your family's religious or spiritual or whatever. The belief system doesn't matter. Exactly. Like one of my favorite stories is there was this little boy. This was actually when I was still up in Seattle. And, he was seeing those things in his room, and I was very close to the family. And so they asked me about him. I came over and, just said, hey, this is what you can do. And, I asked, are they cool with me using angels? Because that was something that I very much connect to. And they're like, sure, even though they weren't necessarily religious per se. And, so I used, you can call in your angels, or you can call in, Archangel Michael, or, God. We found words for that work for the family. And long story short, I said, you say, this is my room. You need to leave now. Out. Right. And so it was so cute, just real simple things. And he's like, 4. And so the funniest thing though is you would have loved him. When what he started doing is, you get out of here, outside, into the garbage can, or go into Uncle Rick's room. And so, we maybe didn't want to necessarily go to Uncle Rick's room, but
we'll show him. But
ask your angels to help them move.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is, not just, you don't have to address if you're dealing with a haunting or any type of paranormal activity of that nature in your space, because you're the living being. Therefore, your free will trumps the free will of non-incarnated beings. That's why even with angels, they cannot intervene unless you give them permission. Their only exception is if it's a life and death moment, and it is not your time to go.
Right. I agree with that. And I think that first lesson is exactly what you said, is about, this is I use the word realm of existence. They do have to play by our rules, the other side. But people don't know that, so they give away their power to other people, to false belief systems or real belief systems, to fear, to just give away their power. Just know, this is our realm. You have to go. In the name of whatever, again, to me, even your word you use are the template. It's the roadmap you use. God, angels, your dog, whatever that is, your spirit guides, your fairies, your whatever. it's the template of the power, the energy. You take it down to the energy. So just teaching people that this is our realm and the other side has to play by our rules changes everything.
Absolutely.
You don't want to go get out with big anger, because that will feed a negative spirit.
Yes.
You don't want to get out with fear, because that will feed a negative spirit. Just go get out. Play parent, play mommy, play daddy. Tell your kid, just exactly, go outside, go to the garden, go to the trash can. That's hysterical.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, that's it. Just be a disciplinarian parent. Get out in the name of whoever, whatever.
Absolutely. And, since you brought this topic, this is something that I really do want to mention as well, because there's perhaps one of your listeners right now might be having this thought of, well, that's all fine and well, but, especially if you were raised, with religious beliefs, and again, totally cool, do what's in your heart, but a lot of times, and I know when I was little, being taught about, one of the things that was often said is, oh, well, if you think you see an angel, you might actually be seeing a demon, or you might actually be seeing something that's pretending to be something. And so I definitely want to give this some advice, and just take it for what you will, you guys, but I hope this helps anyone out there listening right now regarding that question. Because as someone who works and has always, I'm very connected to the angel. That's where I started as an angel communicator, and specializing in angel and archangel communication, teaching that. That was one of my first kind of bread and butter, fully coming out and doing my thing back in the day. And I love angels, and they're, non-denominational. They can be found in all various forms of belief. That being said, here's how you can tell if you're experiencing a connection or something's communicating, is even if something is pretending to be, for example, let's just use angels, right? When you think of an angel, that kind of love, God, that kind of unconditional frequency. In truth, when something is fear-based or coming from a lower vibrational plane, even when they are trying to come across as such being, there's always a undertone. There is, so if you have any questions, stop and sit with it. And if you can feel in the words or something is being shared, if it's not feeling like it's truly coming from a place of service of your highest and best good, and that true genuine frequency of unconditional love, however you feel that, you know what I mean, then that's a very, and again, I'm kind of talking at a more intermediate level.
That's okay.
perhaps.
That's okay. We have an intermediate group.
I'd say, right? And even if you're just beginning, I think this is important too. And also, angels don't speak to you and try to make you feel fearful, make you feel condensed. If you ever leave a situation from seeing a reader or seeing someone who's a spiritual specialist, and you walk away after feeling like, oh, there's a dark cloud over my head, they said I have a curse that came back from the old country from when my mother was pregnant, or oh, everything's out to get me, that's why everything's horrible. Like, take a breath and like run away.
Exactly. That's what I always say. Exactly what you were saying about angels. That's what I tell people about psychics. Anything that's fear-based or control-based, or coming from the dark and coming whatever, that's not where the light works.
It's
whatever your form of light is, that is not where the light works.
It's a big BS.
Yeah. So whether it's an entity you think calling a trickster, saying it's an angel, you could, and plus that's where the best use of our intuition is.
Yes.
Trust that heart. Trust that knowing. Is this the right? And you have to have. To even work in this world, you don't have to work in this world. You have to have a sense of right and wrong, integrity, knowing, and that's where to develop your own intuition on such. Is this really my grandma, or is this a trickster? Yeah, this is really my grandma.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And one of the things, especially if you ever feel like you are having an attachment or something is trying to affect you, one thing that I do is I say, my way of calling it out is I will say, in the name of God, what are you? And I'll say, are you an entity? Are you residual energy? Is this mine? Is this an aspect of me? And I'll say, various ways, whatever feels right at the time. And then I'll sit with that. And usually the first feeling you get, don't go in your head, because sometimes when you're first starting that, it's like, oh, but am I second guessing myself? First thing you feel, recognize that. And then secondly, especially when if you feel obviously is not angelic or not a part of the light, then all you need to say is, this contract is complete.
Yeah.
You no longer have permission to affect me physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in all directions of time. This is done.
Yeah.
In the name of God, go. Or in the name of,
Yeah.
you know.
And if you have trouble with the word God, I don't, but I rarely use it, again, because I like to keep religion out of my
Yeah.
spirituality.
I usually say creator.
Or I
or
use
source.
or light. I use
Yeah.
in the name of goodness, in the name of light, in the
Boom.
name of love, because
Yes.
all of those, light, love, God, goodness,
Yeah.
you know, you can't infect that.
Oh, yeah.
You can't, you can't.
And what I find too is, because I know you and I have definitely been booked together, and we both, with certain types of clearings in particular,
Yes.
I called you, you called me.
Yes,
you know
yes,
what I'm saying?
yes.
I love it. We're a great team.
We are.
Makes my heart happy. But when it comes to spaces, hang on, that was so important because that little thought almost went away. Come back. Here it is. In regards to spaces, I know we're gonna pick up, right? Can I take a minute? It was so good. Let me just use this. Hold on. Mission. Oh, there it is. Yes, here it is. Okay. In regards to pickup, in regards to spaces, when you are doing a clearing, one thing that I found to be very helpful is, and this is also goes along the conversation of owning your own empowerment relating to your space. But with spirits, with entities, at least from my experience, I'll even give them choice. You know, especially when it comes to entities in particular, which is when you're dealing with legitimate entity-based, obviously hauntings, a lot of things, of course, as you know, very often could just be earthbounds. But one of the things that I found to be really helpful is dark entities really don't want to go to the light. There's even though that's home, that's I think in truth the origin of all, right? But for whatever reason we have that, we have the divide. And so I'll say you can either leave now and never return, or you will be escorted out, and I usually into the sun to be transmuted into light. So and I work with Archangel Michael and the Legion of Light. That's one of the main cosmologies I use when specifically dealing with clearings. And earthbounds very often, I'll even ask them, pray for them. It's also a very simple thing, is praying for them to, in your way, going home to heal, going back to source, because they're often kind of lost. Right. But with entities, and if there is resistance, hey, they're going.
Right. You're going either which way.
Yeah. So, so I found that sometimes, at least for me, with not all circumstances, obviously, but for a lot of them, that can be a way to make it go quite smoothly. Yeah. No. It usually,
yeah. It's amazing how smoothly it really can go, and how easy it really is.
Simplicity.
It's just simplicity, and again, it's with the intention and whatever your technique, and there's many techniques and forms, as we talked about, cosmologies, belief systems. And yes, what you're calling earthbounds, I always call, I use shades, ones who are kind of stuck here, because ghosts come in all the time. I have happy ghosts in my house, and they're not stuck, they're not shades, they're not earthbound, they're just hanging out. They're just hanging out. So it feels good in here. So there's many things on that other side of the veil, And I think also one thing, just to go completely off track, is that demons get way too much credit for being around when it's so often and mostly not demons. Yeah. It's a cranky ass old spirit. Right. It's a wannabe. It's a this and that. It's like, if it really was demonic, you're kind of gonna know it. Yeah. Not saying it's not out there, but I honestly think 90% of when people are thinking, oh, it's demonic. No, it's not. Don't even give it that power. Seriously. It's not. It's so much lower vibrational than that. It wants you to think it is. Let go of it.
Yeah. Oh, and there's so many different types of entities.
Yes.
Right. And the term entity, is often just used as a non-incarnated, sentient spirit of some form. I've even known people who use the term entity to identify both of the light and also not of the light beings. That is just a word. And
it's a spirit of some sort. Yeah. It's a living of some form spirit. Because I will use entities out there. I will use it for light and for dark and for spirits, whether it's an elemental thing or it's a space thing or it's a cosmic thing or it's an angelic thing. Again, and every has their own vibration level. Like you were talking, angels are the highest. They're dextral, they're pure. Angels are good for two amazing things. In my understanding, I'm not the angel girl. You are. And the little bit I learned, she's the best angel teacher, I must say, because I've seen other angel teachers, and I'm like, I'm not into angels. They're so boring. But not when Shauna teaches it.
Well,
When Shauna gives you the reality of the energy within. But again,
you're so
we're
sweet.
angels, they're dextral, they're pure. Again, enlightenment and protection, the two best things. Whereas fairy realm or fairy energy, whether you think they're flying little fairies or not, or they're just the spirit of fairy, that's what's going to bring you the music, the levity, the laughter, the sparkle. That's great. And how I work with dragons. To me, dragons.
I love me some dragons.
I love some dragons. They're crossroads. Whether you believe they're fire-breathing beasts, it's their crossroads energy. They live at that crossroads of change, of shift. They can fly between heaven and earth. So it's like sometimes you have your angels for your protection and your enlightenment, and you're going to call them in. You need a little, mischief in your life, you're going to call in some fairies. You need some shift and change and power, you're going to call in your dragons. So yeah, there's a lot
don't forget
out
the
there.
unicorns, y'all.
And
I know
the
I'm not the only
unicorns.
unicorn
Oh no, that.
out there.
What if it's all real out there? What if all these otherworldly beings? I've never.
Unicorns are real, Patty. You know this.
I know, and I think in a weird sense, I've stayed away too much from like the overly Bigfoot. Everybody's a space alien, tinfoil on your head. But what if all that is other dimensional is real truth? The Kundalini or all those animals again that I have never focused on, but other dimensional beings, just not in our dimension. So maybe we never will catch up Bigfoot.
So, okay, this is something that I've said before in various
But not here.
places, but not here. So, but I'm going to say this right now. I mean, just in you sharing that, I just want to acknowledge how extraordinarily Homo sapien and human, with how we are, with our ability to have such a fine level of hubris, to think just for a moment that just because I haven't experienced something, how could that therefore it can't be real? That's something that so often we hear often as people who are psychics, well, that can't be real because I haven't experienced that.
Right.
Well, but even people who aren't psychics or in the metaphysical industry, dare I say, sometimes even say those things too, be it about perhaps ET or cosmic cosmologies and belief systems. And let's just take Bigfoot. Therefore, I mean, I think it would be just so ego-based for us to say, oh, well, that Bigfoot can't be real. I mean, come on.
How come they haven't caught one yet? Why aren't there
Because you're
bones
just
of
doing what
Bigfoot?
people have said.
Exactly.
And so it's silly. So, I mean, I think it's all out there. And whether it's, and I think in this form, same thing with like how the whole universe is interconnected and however we all were created from the place of creator, source, light, whatever vernacular you prefer, we'll never be able to fully comprehend and understand those interconnections in this form. At least that's my way of.
Yeah, no, I agree.
that one.
Again, and what if it's a big, wonderful world where everything? Again, I think we create so
Yes,
much of our
and.
own reality. We do. I'm a little matrixy. I think when I get to what it is, like even afterlife, I kind of go back to the old ancient Sumerian belief system is that you go to your own heaven, and what in their thought is like you go what's above you. And to me, that means if you're into the pearly gates of Christianity, that's what you're going to get. If you're believed that I'm just part of this whole consciousness, great, that's what you're going to get. Reincarnation, that's what you. What if they're all true and they're all aspects of truth, and you kind of pick your own one along the way? Because that's what it seems to me to all the spirits I talk to.
Yeah. Well,
we create this life. Are we not going to create that life? We're a living being. We're a consciousness.
And each consciousness, I think, very much correlates, and that definitely goes right along with the belief system around unity consciousness.
Yeah.
That we all are of God, all are one, and we each are experiencing life in not only in an individual way, but I believe it's like Matt Kahn says it a certain way, and I'm not going to say it in his exact words, so I'm paraphrasing here, but I really love that in that each human being is allowing the creator, source, to experience life in this unique form, in this exact way, in this individual form. Again, it still connects to the whole, right?
Yeah.
There's this beautiful micro and macro interconnection, and I think even with life, when we're dealing with our own problems, death is part of being human. To die is to know that you lived, that you were a living being, that someone was a living being, and when we're having hardships and pain, and having to go through, our deepest, darkest moments, that's part of what is helping us in our own soul evolution.
In our own growth, yeah.
Yeah.
And death of this particular meat suit, because it's
Yeah.
got a very short shelf life of hopefully around 100 years or upcoming more. But that this meat suit doesn't mean death, because science has proved we don't. So it's just that shifting. It's great. And I think that's why both of us being mediums, whether it's around a seance table or just one-on-one with clients, I think why spirits really like that, because I don't believe that time and space is on the other side. They're just everywhere all the time, which is hard for our little baby human brains. But if they're everywhere all the time, they could do that or create their own. When we're talking to them one-on-one, whether it's just spirit communication or even using a Ouija board or using a modern tech SLS camera or a K2 meter or a spirit box, they're having a semblance of real time. They're really communicating with this side of the veil. So I think that's why spirits like it so much. So we will be right back in just a couple of minutes. Please stay tuned. I want to see more from Shauna. I want to see what she has coming up next and how you're going to be able to hear from her. So this is The Witching Hour with Patti Negri. Don't go anywhere.
That's perfect.
Whoa.
So good.
That is perfect.
I'll get better every week.
No,
I start
like,
out
you-
rough.
That was brilliant.
Even from last week, so if I don't stop you, keep going, because you ladies are on a flow, and
Good.
Aw.
yeah, so
Together.
that's good.
Awesome.
Yep.
You did that. It was so professional too, Boo.
Okay, I'm pretending
This
to be
is
a
the
radio
witching
show. I know, it's funny. I know, you have to learn as you go how to do it, because you're a different persona from at the table, you're on the big stage, or whatever. I loved it last week because Sebastian's doing very Sebastian, and Q goes, put on your radio voice. And then he becomes Sebastian.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Yeah.
It was good.
He's figured out his radio voice. I'm like, no, Sebastian, I need your radio voice. And then he just
What did he sound like before?
Sebastian.
just Sebastian, but then he became Father Sebastian,
Ah, yeah.
impresario of
Yeah, and this night, you know.
Nice.
All right. So I would say we have a good maybe 15, 20 more minutes.
Okay.
You ladies went 30 minutes. I don't know
Did
if
you?
it felt
That's
like
awesome. No, it didn't.
No.
That's good.
which is a great thing.
So 15, 20 minutes. So within this is 15, 20 minutes total.
Total.
So do you want to tell me when to go into how do we get hold of you and blah
Yeah.
blah,
So
blah.
I'll do 5 minutes, and
At
that's how
5
we know.
minutes,
At
that's how
5
we do
minutes, how do we get into? Is there anything
What do you
wanted
want
to
coming
promote?
up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what do we want to talk in? Because we kind of in a roundabout way talked about what we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, well, we always just flow.
We just flow.
Just flow. This is perfect.
Okay.
This
Yeah,
is-
we're perfect.
This is absolutely perfect. So I might
This
go.
is why you and I need to have our own reality.
I know we should.
I might go. So just to speak into the mic. Your mic is perfect.
Okay.
So you're good to go. Here we go. Coming in 3, 2.
Welcome back to The Witching Hour with Patti Negri and my special guest today, the beautiful and talented Shauna Grace. We have been talking about, well, angels, aliens, Bigfoot, unicorns,
Dragons,
empaths,
empaths,
children.
parents.
We're gonna solve all the problems of the world in 1 hour. So let's talk a little about, because you do teach empath training, and what to you is the difference of, okay, and what I hear funny, again, people with art, all of a sudden, everybody, because they have empathy, you're an empath, you're an empath. It's like the guy at the grocery store, you're an empath. And I don't even know how they're supposed to react to that. But what to you, what is an empath compared to empathy, compared to empathic?
Great question. Oh my goodness. So, all right, we're just gonna dive into it.
Okay.
I'm all excited. My heart is on fire with joy because this is something I love talking about. First off, I do want to acknowledge and I'm very grateful that the topic of empaths and being empathic and all the things that go along with that subject in general is being talked about. It's trending. It's on trend. Hashtag empath, right? And so that being said, the gift of it is people are waking up in their own way, becoming more aware, especially those who were never exposed to those ideas or topics and can now start to learn more about themselves, especially if they obviously are natural empaths. There are many different types of empaths as well. That's something. So if you are interested in this topic, I would encourage you. There's this amazing thing called Google. You can just granted, take what you will with what you read. Read what resonates. If something doesn't resonate, you can just go ahead and let it go. Listen to your compass, because of course the internet is full of all sorts of ideas and thoughts. That being said, though, there is a difference between having empathy and being an empath. So, ideally, as human beings, having empathy is a great skill.
And most people do, except for like serial killers, right?
Yeah, or people,
Yeah.
don't have an underdevelopment of that particular part of the brain, which can be seen in brain scans. For example, with that whole topic about narcissists, there is just as the difference between empathy and being an empath and having narcissistic tendencies versus being a tried and true narcissist.
Hashtag trending.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
God.
That is there are distinctions, and so I feel like it is very important if someone is wanting to speak on these topics to just be informed. Look at both sides of the conversation. Don't just assume because someone is seeming to put themselves first to the point that or treating you or gaslighting you or whatever. There's so many. I mean, I'm trying not to go too deep into that topic. That could be a whole other show.
We'll bring it back.
Yeah, say that with love. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are trying to narcissist. In fact, when someone truly is a diagnosable narcissist, you can actually do a brain scan, and you can see it on a brain scan, usually an MRI or what have you, because that particular part of the frontal cortex that does have to do with the capacity to have empathy and compassion is either very underdeveloped or sometimes even damaged or not there at all. That's also why people with strokes, suddenly, if that area is affected, empathy, their ability to have empathy can even be affected.
Yeah.
But that's, again, another topic, coming back to here. So how do you know if you really are an empath, right? Empathy, in general, is having the ability to relate, right, or have understanding related to someone's experience, right, an emotional experience. You can feel, and then within that conversation, you have the differences between compassion, sympathy, versus empathy. Then when you talk about being an empath, you're not only having the ability to feel and connect and relate to someone's experience and or emotion, but empaths actually absorb the energy. So it's almost like you take it on, and very often it's unconsciously. You're not trying to do that. Even young children, especially those who perhaps had to act more like adults to their parents, a lot of empaths, you'll find some type of, emotional trauma from childhood. That can be a way of even coping, which is how some empaths even kind of get developed very quickly, even if they weren't naturally born with such a heightened nervous system. Also, speaking of which, nervous system, I find the human nervous system is very much connected to this topic of empaths, because empaths have, I often lovingly joke, an empath is a clairsentient on steroids. Clairsentience, you guys, is just basically one of the intuitive gateways in which we have the capacity to have. We usually have, one or two that are really strong. Some people have all four intuitive gateways.
Clairvoyant, clairsentient,
Audient, and claircognizant.
Yeah.
So basically,
clairs.
you get all the clairs, and then there's minor ones like clair aliens, and there's
poop.
right, which is like psychic smell, psychic taste. As a medical intuitive, I use those a lot. Sometimes that's quite lovely, and other times it's
Clair poop.
yeah, that's unpleasant. I said we become very, very intimate.
Yes.
To suddenly know a lot about you, with love. Don't be scared. It's fine. But anyway, back to this topic. We're having fun.
I know. This is what we do.
So, when you absorb, and how you can tell someone you are absorbing an energy.